Okay. So our first order of business tonight is to appoint a new chair for the 2022-2026 term. So I'll allow committee members to discuss amongst themselves who you would like to appoint.
Through you, Madam Secretary, is there anyone who has an interest in being chair?
I'll do Wanda.
I would just say it doesn't matter to me.
I'm going to offer, but I don't need the job. Happy to support somebody else.
Sure.
Okay, so that the Committee of Adjustment hereby appoints Wanda Ma Chapman as chair for the term 2022-2026. May I have a mover and a seconder to get this?
I'll move it.
And seconded by Michael. Thank you. And then our next item of business is to discuss who would like to be vice chair. Is there anyone that would like to volunteer for vice chair?
Madam Secretary, I can be vice chair of the committee. So,
Madam Secretary, I support that as well.
Okay, so I'd like to put a motion on the floor that the Committee of Adjustment hereby appoints
Here. Well, if you're gonna fucking be here, come on.
at this time. I would like to pass the meeting over to our chair.
Might be.
Thank you. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening? Let the record show that there are zero. Do you say zero or none, or does it matter? Okay. That the Committee of Adjustments meeting dated November 30th, 2022 be adopted as presented. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Henry, second by Brad. Carried. All in favor? Carried. That was not. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting to allow the public an opportunity to express their views regarding the proposed minor variances and consents within the Township of Springwater. Each applicant and their agent is applicable will be given the opportunity to present the applications to the committee and public. Additional information on each of the application, including any presentations material, is available in the committee agenda on the township's website. Following those of the public who registered to make an oral submission prior to 5:30 p.m. yesterday, January 24th, 2023. Will be given the opportunity to do so. All oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the township website. All comments or questions should be addressed through the chair. Will the Secretary Treasurer please include the first application item number 4.1 on the agenda?
Agenda is minor variance application AO223 submitted by C. Adams, owner of lands known municipally as 1153 Glengarry Landing Road South. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the construction of a detached accessory building, a garage with a maximum ground floor area of 115 square meters, 1,238 square feet. and second-story storage loft that will exceed the maximum height provisions of zoning bylaw 5,000. The applicant is requesting a maximum height of 4.9 meters, 16.1 feet, whereas section 3.7.5B permits a maximum height of 4.5 meters, 14.76 feet, or the height of the dwelling, whichever is the lesser.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Yes, the drainage superintendent stated that the property is not assessed into a municipal drain. The Ministry of Transportation stated that the site is outside of MTO permit control area and does not require MTO review or permits. And Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, NVCA, provided a letter dated January 25th, 2023, and recommends deferral of any approval of the application until the applicant can address NVCA flood study and EIS comments to ensure conformity to the policies and regulations of the Conservation Authority. In response, the applicant has submitted additional correspondence by Joe Topo Surveys and CAD Inc. dated January 25th, 2023.
Thank you. Could I please have the applicant introduce themselves and provide a comment, if any?
Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm Cameron Adams. I'm the owner of 1153. I guess my only comment would be, obviously the conservation has requested deferral. As far as I read on the letter that they sent today, that was for they're concerned over fill that I was proposed to bring in. As far as I'm concerned, in my 2 cents, is the fill issue is a permit issue, not a variance structure size issue. If you would just take that into consideration when you're making your decision tonight.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you. There are no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, to staff. If the committee is to support this application and they came in for their building permit, it is applicable law that they do have to go through MVCA for a permit, correct?
Thank you, Member Farquharson. That is correct. The applicant will be required to obtain an MVCA permit prior to issuance of any building permit under applicable law.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for staff. Is it common to receive comments from NVCA the day of the meeting when the agendas are issued the week or so beforehand?
Over to you.
Thank you, Member Sokach. It is not uncommon for us to receive comments this late in the game from the MVCA or other commenting bodies. We've seen it more and more often lately, unfortunately.
I have a question through to you, the staff. So my question, and maybe I'm not understanding how, I'm not sure how Phil has anything to do with the height of the structure. If you can, maybe.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Thank you, Chair Ma Chapman. The fill does not have anything to do with the variance for height. Height is measured from average grade, which would be at the level essentially of like the foundation where it meets the grade. So if they raise it up a little bit, it's not a consideration in terms of measuring height under the zoning bylaw. The MVCA does regulate the placement of fill, and that's where their comment is coming from, as the applicant, I believe, has proposed through his permitting process with the MVCA some fill. Perhaps the applicant can clarify that further, but that's my understanding. And from a zoning bylaw perspective, it isn't captured under the height.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, did you have anything to add to staff's comment?
No, you guys pretty well nailed it there. It's like I'm happy to comply with their requests, but it's not a variance issue, it's a permit issue.
Another question, what happens if we approve this? Where does it stand with the NVCA then?
So as far as I know, if you guys approve it, they're not gonna give me the permit until I ask or provide what they're asking.
Staff, do you have any comment on top of that?
Thank you, Chair Ma Chapman. Just to add to the applicant's comments there. So the applicant will be required to obtain the MVCA permit if the committee decided to approve the application tonight through their permitting process and prior to any building permit issuance. On that note, the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority could appeal the decision as there is a 20-day appeal period. So that's in their wheelhouse, just as if any other commenting authority could appeal as well. So that is there. Otherwise, he will just need to obtain a permit.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant's comment about this sounds more like a permit issue than a variance issue. I agree with 100%.
Thank you. Any comment through staff with that?
I have no further comment to that.
Thank you. Henry?
Through you, Chair, to Cameron, has the NVCA stated what you have to put down for fill or aggregate?
They have not. So when we originally started the process, they essentially told me that I was allowed to put as much fill in as I could to bring the garage out of the floodplain. And now this is the first I'm hearing it today on that letter. They're saying that I can't put that much fill in. I need to reduce the amount of fill. So that would just mean taking the fill away, and it would bring along different foundation and floodproofing or waterproofing requirements on the building.
Any further questions? I have a motion for application A02/23 that the Committee of Adjustments having given consideration to the applicable provision of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the application dated January 25, 2003, the correspondent received and information presented at the hearing held on January 25th, 2023, and the decision of the matter hereby now what? Go ahead.
To you, Madam Chair, I move it that we approve the application as outlined in the recommendations by staff. Thank you.
Thank you for helping me. Can I have a mover and a seconder? All in favor? Carry. Thanks, Mr. Adams, for all your time. We did approve that. Staff will continue corresponding with you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the Secretary Treasurer please introduce this next application, item number 4.2 on the agenda.
Sorry, they can't hear me. I have to say that again. Okay. Item 4.2 on the agenda is minor variance application B1522 submitted by C Phillips on behalf of 829664 Ontario Limited, owner of lands known municipally as 1060 Floss Road 8 East. The purpose of the application is to obtain approval for a boundary adjustment consent to convey a parcel of vacant land at 1060 Floss Road 8 East, measuring approximately 4 hectares, 9.88 acres, to the abutting commercial parcel municipally known as 121 Yonge Street South. The applicant has also received a site-specific official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment approvals under OPA 64 and bylaw 5365.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Yes, thank you, Chair Mosh-Atman. The drainage superintendent stated that the property is not assessed into a municipal drain. The Ministry of Transportation stated no concerns with the proposed boundary adjustment and stated that the sites are within MTO permit control area and that MTO review and permits are required prior to any work on the sites. Hydro One stated they had no comments or concerns at this time. County of Simcoe Transportation and Engineering has no objection to the approval of the application, provided that the condition in their letter to the township dated January 25th, 2023 is included. And Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, NVCA, provided a letter dated January 25th, 2023, and recommends deferral of any approval of the application until the applicant can address NVCA flood study and EIS comments to ensure conformity to the policies and regulations of the Conservation Authority.
Can I please have applicant introduce themselves and provide comment, if any?
Hello, my name is Celeste Phillips. I'm a land use planning consultant. I'm speaking to you this evening on behalf of the numbered company that is proposing to sell this portion of property to BMR Pro, which is the Elmville Home Hardware. And George Bagley is in attendance this evening as well. Authorization for me to speak on behalf of both the vendor and the purchaser has been provided to the township. So there is a little bit of background here I wanted to go through. In 2020, we had a pre-consultation meeting with the township about the proposed expansion to the Elmville Home Hardware. Throughout 2021, the technical reporting was done, and that included an agricultural review, stage 1-2 archaeology, functional servicing report, a stormwater management report, and a traffic study. In late 2021, the Conservation Authority asked for a flood hazard study, and that was completed in March of 2022. So that was submitted quite some time ago. It did take 7 months for the Conservation Authority to provide comments. In April and May, June, July, the township and the county dealt with the applications for official plan amendment and rezoning, and both of those were approved by both the county and the township. So the official plan designation is in place and the zoning is in place for the proposed expansion of Elmville Home Hardware. Along the way, the Conservation Authority then asked for a 3-season environmental impact study. Fortunately, the vendor had that work in process. So it was submitted to the Conservation Authority in October of last year. And I have not yet received comments on that reporting. So it's been 3 months. I can tell you that only a portion of this property is within the area regulated by the Conservation Authority. There is no negative impact associated with the proposed expansion. The lands along the creek corridor are already zoned environmental protection. I do take exception to the Conservation Authority's letter this evening, and I would direct you to page 2, where they acknowledge that the proposed boundary adjustment, such as this one, is not considered development. But they have concerns about this proceeding and then as of right development being permitted. And I did want to advise the committee that the zoning is in place for the proposed expansion. As I mentioned, the entire creek corridor is already zoned environmental protection, and the property is subject to site plan control. So I think there's adequate protection there. So I would ask that the Committee of Adjustment not defer the application this evening. With respect to the comments from the County of Simcoe and MTO, the County of Simcoe is suggesting that the field entrance be removed before the severance can be perfected. Again, I don't think that's a relevant condition for you to impose at this time, because the property has to go through site plan control, at which time there will be dialogue with both the MTO and the county on which entrance is appropriate for this site. And I just ask if perhaps, George, you could speak to what issues you've dealt with before with your entrances and where you're going with the proposed expansion of the hardware store.
So currently we have the intersection of the 8th and 27. Currently we have the intersection of the 8th and 27, and I have 3 existing entrances, all within 145 meters. It causes traffic chaos. So to say no more entrance permits would put more traffic through that existing area. And we just reduced the speed limit. It took 2 years of me and previous council to do that. We got rid of a passing lane and put in a double line. And it's the first winter so far, knock on wood, that we haven't had a fender bender or an all-out accident. My thoughts are remove one of the existing 3 entrances that are close to the intersection of the 8th and 27 and allow one further north on the new property that we're trying to buy. I think it would be safer for all of the residents. It would be much easier on traffic flow. I can't understand why the county would say no more entrances. I think reducing one on the current property and adding it to the property we're trying to add would make far more sense.
And so in conclusion, to you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee, you have before you a staff recommendation report that recommends approval with conditions that we feel are appropriate. We oppose the deferral, and we oppose the addition of a condition that specifies where the entrances should be, because those are more properly dealt with at the site plan stage. And so for those reasons, we'd ask for your approval this evening.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you. There are no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning the application? Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for staff. Is it appropriate for members of this committee? I'm new, so this is probably an obvious question, to be commenting or basing a decision on an entrance that may or may not be built in the future? I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Brent.
Thank you, Chair Ma Chapman, through you to committee member Solkach. I think as far as the consideration for the site development goes, I think the site plan process would probably be the more appropriate process to get into the site design and those considerations and having those discussions with the county. From a boundary adjustment perspective, as noted by Ms. Phillips, the applicant has gone through some significant work to try to get the approvals in place from an official plan perspective and a zoning perspective. And the NVCA was also involved in, just to bring them into the loop, in meetings where we had discussed the requirement for site plan control. So I think without the county seeing the full extent of the plans that Mr. Begley is coming forward with from a site plan perspective, And then to make a recommendation as to which entrances should be removed and which ones should be maintained would be premature. And therefore, I think from that standpoint, the site plan process is probably the best avenue or the best mechanism to deal with that.
Follow on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Director Spagno. At the site plan stage, will the township or the district have the ability or the power to ask for or require a reduction in the number of entrances there? Because I understand what Mr. Begley was saying, it is quite a chaotic intersection at times. And I'm sure everybody would like to see less entrances along there. And I just want to ensure that there is control with the municipality or the district.
Director Spagno?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chair Mott Chapman. For some reason, the host is muting me. I don't know what I said wrong, but I apologize. It's quite a nifty little tool to have that. Anyway, thank you, Chair Mott Chapman. So to just through you to Committee Member Sokach, the township does have the ability to, through the site plan process, to control, restrict access. At the end of the day, because it's the county is the authority, the road authority in this case, they have the ability to control that as well. So it is through the site plan process and through those discussions with the county that there is the ability to reduce access points and reorient how that will work.
Follow on?
Thank you, Director Spagno. Through the chair, just one last question. If we do approve this tonight, is there control in place to ensure that the NVCA's concerns are satisfied prior to construction proceeding?
Director Spagno?
Through you, Chair Mott Chapman, through to Committee Member Sokach. Yes, the township does have the ability to require the same studies that the NVCA is looking to have finalized. That was actually part of the discussion that staff was involved in with the NVCA, and that is a requirement of the site plan approval process.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Through you, Madam Chair, to staff. So perhaps with this condition here with the county, and for other committee members' sake, if the committee were to include this, I think there would be challenges in the applicant satisfying it. So if staff can provide clarification when there is consent applications like this, is there a specified time frame that these conditions need to be cleared? Thank you.
Director Spagno?
Thank you, Chair Mott Chapman, through to Committee Member Farquharson. So if I understand this correctly, you're asking whether or not we have the ability to set timeframes for when the conditions need to be satisfied?
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, just when the consent is granted, how long does the applicant have to clear those conditions? That's my question. Thank you.
Director Spagno?
Thank you, Mott Chapman. Through you to Committee Member Farquharson. The applicant has 2 years to clear those conditions.
Follow on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just in thinking on that, and we don't know as a committee when the applicant will be coming in and developing that site. My recommendation would be that we don't include this condition as part of the decision of the committee tonight. I think the applicant would have a tough time satisfying and clearing that condition because we don't know when a future site plan application would come forward. And as also what's been mentioned about the MVCA, if there is additional concerns and studies that they want to have completed or more time to review that EIS, it can be done through the MVCA permitting process as well as the site plan approval. And perhaps if staff can confirm through the site plan control process, the MVCA is a commenting agency as part of that process as well. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brad.
Madam Chair, when it comes time to read the resolution, can I suggest that we remove condition number 6, further to what Mr. Farquharson suggested?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I agree with that. Remove item 6 and the conditions. That doesn't paint anybody into a corner.
Any other questions or concerns? My concern is why the NVCA took 7 months. This did come to council 7 months ago because I was part of that decision. And then all of a sudden it's the day of. So I agree with everyone that we should move on with this, and that can be through the site planning. Thank you. I have a motion for B 1522 that the Committee of Adjustments, having given consideration to the applicable provision of section 53 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the subject land and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the subject application dated January 25th, 2023, that the planning report that the correspondent received and the information presented at the hearing held on January 25th, 2023, and the decision of the matter hereby approve of the application as applied for the subject for the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all requirements, financial or otherwise, of the municipality. 2, that the applicant provided 2 copies of the registered survey of the convenient lands prepared of the Ontario Land Surveyor, that the owner applicant satisfy and be responsible for all costs to satisfy section 65 of the Drainage Act 1990 in, if applicable, that the conveyed lands be merged with the benefiting lands known municipality as 121 Yonge Street South, that the applicant confirm 5, that the applicant confirm that by survey and the retained lands meet the minimum lot area requirement of 35.0 hectares for the agriculture A zone, or that minor variance be obtained to recognize a deficient lot area, and 6 to be removed. We have a second. Any other questions? I'm a seconder. I'm moving to seconder. All in favor? Tongue tied there. Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Will the Secretary Treasurer be please introduce the next application item number 4.3 on the agenda?
Thank you, Chair Ma Chapman. Item 4.3 on the agenda is consent applications B 1622 and B 1722 submitted by J McCaig of 2731960 Ontario Inc. and S Drury of J&K Farms, owners of lands known municipally as 3147 Old Second South and 1881 Partridge Road. The purpose of application B 1622 is to obtain a boundary adjustment consent to convey a parcel of vacant forested land at 1881 Partridge Road, representing an area of approximately 5.4 hectares, 13.3 acres, to the abutting parcel municipally known as 3147 Old Second South. The boundary adjustment will provide 3147 Old Second South, currently a landlocked property with frontage. The purpose of application B 1722 is to obtain a boundary adjustment consent to convey 2.7 hectares, 6.67 acres of vacant farmland at 3147 Old Second South to the abutting parcel being 1881 Partridge Road. The consent applications represent a swap of lands and do not propose or result in the creation of any new lots.
Has any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Thank you. Yes, TransCanada Pipeline provided comments dated January 12th, 2023, stating that there are 2 high-pressure natural gas pipelines contained within an easement right-of-way crossing both properties, and have therefore requested that a number of regulatory and development requirements be forwarded to the applicant in the event of any future activity in proximity to the pipelines. Complete copy of the letter and list of requirements can be found on the agenda for tonight's meeting. The drainage superintendent stated that the property is not assessed into a municipal drain. The Ministry of Transportation stated that the site is outside of MTO permit control area and does not require MTO review or permits. Hydro One stated that they have no comments or concerns at this time. And Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, NVCA, reviewed the proposed consent and based upon their mandate and policies under the Conservation Authorities Act, have no objection to the approval of the application.
Can I please have the applicant introduce themselves and provide comment, if any? Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered? Sorry about that, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks everyone for your time. The whole blurb there kind of summarized everything. Kind of helps the farmer next door to myself, because they actually farm that piece of land that I'll be swapping with them. And the land that I'd be sort of trading for them will just give me a little bit of a better access to my property. So that's about it.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you. There are no members of the public who have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to comment or have any questions concerning this application? No comment. I have a motion for B 1622 and B 1722. That Committee of Adjustments having given consideration to the applicable provisions of sections 53 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the subject land and its surrounding as addressed in the planning report on the subject application dated January 25th, 2023, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearing held on January 25th, 2023, and the discussion on the matter hereby approved of the applications and applied for subjects for the following conditions. 1, the applicant meet all requirements, financial or otherwise, of the municipality. 2, the applicant provide 2 copies of the registered survey of the convened lands prepared by the Ontario Land Surveyor. 3, that the owner applicant satisfied and be responsible for all costs to satisfy section 65 of the Drainage Act 1990, if applicable, that the convened lands from 3147 Old Second South be merged with the benefiting land known municipality as 1881 Partridge Road. And 5, that the convened lands from 188 Partridge Road be merged with the benefiting lands known municipality of 3147 Old Second South. Now a mover and a seconder.
By myself, Henry.
All in favor? Carried. Other business, the 2023 Committee of Adjustments meeting schedule. I have a motion that the Committee of Adjustments hereby approve the 2023 meeting schedule. I have a mover and a seconder.
I'll move it.
All in favor? Carried. The 2022-2022-0226 term committee. Okay. Term Committee of Adjustments meeting format. I have a motion that the Committee of Adjustments meetings for the 2023 to 2026 term held hybrid. Have a second. Or do you want to discuss, have a discussion, So we can do virtually, in person, or as hybrid. So hybrid could be both here, and if you couldn't make it, you can zoom in. Any questions or concerns or questions? On which way you want? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My preference would be the hybrid meetings. If it's nasty weather like this, then we can stay home and but still participate in the meeting. Ideally, I'm going to be in person most meetings, but I'd like to have the flexibility to have the opportunity to do hybrid meetings if I'm not able to make it in. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Sure.
I totally agree with Mr. Farquharson that hybrid meetings, I'll try to be here as often as we can. But I'm sure there will be times when we all have something in our lives that comes up.
For sure. Anyone else?
Yeah, I also agree with that. Thank you.
I have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Carried. 6.3, time start for future meetings. I have a motion that the remainder of the meetings for 2023 to 2026 term begins at, do you want to have a discussion? Do you like it 7 or do you want it 6:30?
Madam Chair, can we have a discussion before we?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I would prefer as early as possible, just as much for the convenience of staff here as everything else. They're here all day as well as their day finishes at 4 or 4:30, and then they have to stick around playing cards until we start. So if we started even at 6 or 6:30, I'd prefer 6, but 6:30 would be fine, just to give us time to get here from work and grab a sandwich. But the earlier the better, out of respect for staff. If they have a comment that they'd like it later, I'd love to hear it.
Any other comment for start times?
I work from home and right now it's not too busy, but in the summertime, I prefer to have it at 7 o'clock, and I get it that staff is would have to come back sometimes where they stay here, but when we're busy on the farm, being here for 6 o'clock can be hard. That's my concern, but.
Any other comments? Brianna?
Thank you, Chair Maud Chapman. I was just going to comment that the township office does close at 5:30 now, so we are working, most of us are working till 5:30 or around that time.
Sorry, can you repeat what you said there in the fuzziness?
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I was just clarifying that the township office is now open till 5:30. So most staff is here until 5:30, but anywhere from 4:30 to 5:30, but just to clarify that point.
Follow on?
Madam Chair, may I suggest that the compromise sounds like 6:30? It'll impinge a little bit on Henry, but I think it'll help staff a little bit.
Henry?
Yeah, like we can make it work that 6 o'clock if that, I'm happy with that. 6 o'clock. Yep.
Sorry, through the chair, I like 6, but I want to respect your work and your needs.
Well, and it could be a time that I would maybe just do it through Zoom then if I can't be here. Yeah.
I was just gonna suggest if we wanted to meet in the middle and do 6:30, it's up to you guys. I'm flexible.
Madam Chair, can I ask one more question to staff?
Go ahead, Brad.
Do we have any, what do proponents prefer? Do they prefer earlier in the evening, or do they want to need it as late as possible in order to get themselves sorted out?
Go ahead, Brianna.
Thank you, Chair Maud Chapman. I don't know that we've ever had anybody specify what they need. Sometimes people do have to get home and then come here after work, but if we have the hybrid option, that allows for a bit more flexibility as well. I know all the council meetings do start at 6:30. So that seems to be a quite popular time, but it's definitely up to the committee, and I think Director Spagnuolo might have something just to add to that.
Director Spagnuolo?
Thank you, Chair Ma Chapman. Planner Belcourt pretty much stole the words right out of my mouth. So the flexibility with the virtual meetings makes the earlier time a little bit more palatable, I think, for applicants, and the flexibility does that. But so I think we're definitely in committee's hands. So.
Thank you. Brad? Sorry, Mike?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with the earlier one. 6 o'clock is fine. If Henry's willing to compromise on that, maybe it means once in a while we have to go to the farm and help him out for an hour before in the afternoon, but if it works well.
On that comment, 8 o'clock at night is good with me.
So my other concern is if we have residents come in, would 6 be too early for them, do you think? You get many in the past?
Thank you, Ma Chapman. Because of we've been virtual with COVID for the last like almost, what is it, 2-3 years at this, 3 years about this time now. We have seen residents who attend virtually. And I think as myself and Director Spagnuolo were saying, that provides a bit more flexibility in the time when the meeting can be held, because people aren't rushing home and then rushing here, rushing home from work. They can essentially attend the meeting from anywhere, but they still have the option to come in with the hybrid function that the committee decided on.
Perfect. Any other questions? Henry?
I'd like to make a motion that the meetings, Committee of Adjustment meetings start at 6 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Adjournment, that this Committee of Adjustments meeting held on January 25th, 2023 does now adjourned at 7:47 p.m. May I have a mover and a seconder? Brad and Mike, all in favor? Carried.
Need a motion on what time all meetings can end? Or must
Night, everyone. Well done.
Good night.
Being recorded.